this video, we're going to talk a little bit about how Goodo Studios is using Claude Cowork for creative strategy. It is pretty incredible to see the outputs because just a few years ago, we were doing so much of this research manually, and a lot of the things that we needed were stored in our own minds. And it was really up to us to remember a bunch of things about a bunch of different brands and be able to put it together to get a pretty good brief. But now this is all organized in Claude Cowork. So I'm going to show you a little bit how we're using it, but also how you can get the most out of AI, which I think that part is probably the most important. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so the first thing you need to know is that this Claude Code and Claude Cowork and all that stuff is on the desktop app. So you need to go into regular Claude, which is on your browser, and you need to go in and you want to download the desktop app. That's how you get the Claude Cowork, and you can see you can toggle between chat, Cowork, and code. Now, chat is still really great. It's the interface that you and I grew up on, meaning a few years ago, right? Which is just you chatting with AI and it's giving you responses back. Now, the limitation with that was that you could only give it so much text, and then you'd have to wait for the answer, and then you would be able to give it almost the next prompt. What makes Cowork different? It's kind of like the coding version of just like, it's going to take an insane amount of tasks and do it all in one go. So you can do, let's say, instead of prompting chat 10 different times to finally get the output that you want, you could do all of that in one go. So Cowork really allows you to create these multi-step prompts that allows you to get such way more context, allows you to get way more output. And then of course, as the models having grown and grown and grown, and most recently when I'm recording this, it's Opus 4.6, the context windows are massive. The outputs are massive. And so even if you compare it to the outputs you were getting just a year ago, even 6 months ago, is incredible. Not only from a quality standpoint, but just from a depth level. Like, it's literally able to just compute so much and still so quickly. So it is pretty amazing. We are, as Goodo Studios, we are really focused on being able to use this to do a ton of research for us. So we're able to do a ton of research on any of our clients and get a lot of research back. Instead of doing this manually, we can now do this just directly on Claude Cowork, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to show you how we do that. I have a pretty large prompt that we can go through, and so I am going to just do that right now. So I'm going to copy this whole thing. I'm going to say Control Copy. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to paste it. And I'll explain to you a little bit about how we got here. But for now, let's just say, what brand should we do? We are going to do Cane Masters. This is one of our clients, and they sell incredible canes. So why don't we do this? Cane Masters. And, I'm just going to fill out this real quick. They sell high quality premium canes. And to be honest, you could just not even do this. I'm just going to hit send it, and it's going to say, let's go. And in this prompt, it is a ton of different tasks that it's going to do. So as this is cooking, I want to explain to you a little bit about how we organize and make sure that we can get the most out of Claude Cowork. And the first thing, you can see here, you've got the progress, right? So it's going to go through a ton of different research here, which is pretty cool. One of the biggest things we do is we have a prompt library. Centralizing prompts as an organization is kind of important. It allows people to not have to think about, oh, well, how do I get that output? And you're not always tweaking things to get that output. You can just copy and paste and get it. And as we improve those prompts, then we can continue to change it. So we have a few different ones here, and then we have some different other types of ads, just their prompts themselves. The other thing is that we have a context doc for a lot of different things. So we have context doc for just how to make great static ads. And you can see in here, we've got this whole large thing about copywriting, and you can see this is a pretty long document with examples on how to headline, how to format things. And we do all of this because this just allows us to have a way better upfront chance of getting better outputs. It is worth spending the time building out how you want to write, how you think about advertising, or how you think about copywriting, or whatever you're trying to do, and putting that into a document. And the great thing is that as we improve these documents, as we get more and more in depth, we can continue to enrich this to continue to grow and expand what we can get out of AI. I honestly feel like if you do just that, you will get so much out of Claude Cowork, because then you are not only just doing like little simple prompts, but you're really able to get a ton of that context that you really need to get like good outputs. I find that the best outputs come from the best inputs. Now, as we continue to wait for this to kind of keep cooking, which you can see, it's growing, it's moving and grooving. The other cool thing that we like to use is called Prompt Cowboy. And what I find is that a lot of times, look, I am lazy when it comes to writing prompts. I don't want to have to write out all this context, but I do know that writing great prompts is how you get a good output. So what can you do? You can use Prompt Cowboy. It can just make and enrich your prompts to get a better output. I'm going to show you that right now. So if you say, you are a creative strategist and I want you to write a script for cane masters about, American-made cane and why you need to upgrade from those cheap store canes. The script should be 30 seconds for face ads. Okay. That is, if you put that prompt in, you would get some trash coming out of it. But if you are able to see that it takes this and it really starts to put in something extremely dense, right? This is such a better prompt. So you're going from this little lazy prompt to a great prompt. And you can also change things, right? So you can also add things like, hey, I have a previous script, or I have guidelines and voice guidelines and things like that. So you can also refine this. You don't have to just go boom to boom, but it is very helpful. Okay, so this thing is still cooking. So while that's happening, I want to also explain a little bit about how we take this research and what can we do with it on Claude Cowork. Just like you want to have a context document that gives you context about how to make great ads or how to write good copy, you also want to make sure that you have this centralized document about what is your brand, who's your competitors, what makes you unique, all of those different things. So this research is our start of building out those context docs for all of our brands that we work with. And every brand has their own context doc, which is pretty cool because then we can always add to it and change to it. There are plenty of brands that have do's and don'ts, and as things change on Meta, the do's and don'ts also change of what we can say or can't say. And so we can always be updating that context doc, and that gives you better outputs. If you are relying on Claude to always, or any sort of AI, to always have to search for your brand using a website, it's going to crawl things in and then give you an output, you're just not going to get the best outputs. So if you can give it and build out these context documents right now, then you can just get directly into creating content a lot faster. Okay, I have now been recording for not that very long. Let me just say, this is not very long. I don't know how long, but maybe 5 to 10 minutes. This is what you're going to get. This is a full output from our stuff, right? So it's a little bit about the actual company. You can see all of the products. It's gone through literally the whole website. It's crawled it. It helps with positioning. Here's some value proposition. But then you could see all of the competitors, right? So direct competitors. You can see that it gives you why Cane Masters is unique, it's different, SWOT analysis, and this is really just going through for us our process. So whatever your creative research process is, literally write a prompt that is the full thing, and then you can just post that into Claude Cowork, and it will do all of it for you. So then when you are thinking about how can I do the best as a strategist, you would think, well, instead of me having to manually go and do all of this research, it's already done for you. So you can spend more time saying, how do I use this research to make great ads? So now my strategists, they're not thinking, oh man, I got to go out and I got to go crawl all these websites and figure out what this competitor versus this competitor. It's all done for them. So now in that same amount of time that they would have been going to website and checking out all this stuff, and they wouldn't have not done nearly as in depth as Claude Cowork has done. But instead of doing that and spending that time, now they can spend the time saying, okay, so how do I make the best ad from this? Right now that I know the landscape of where Canyon Masters is comparative to everybody else, here's what I can do. And so if you are allowing your strategist to spend more time being strategic and creative as opposed to just finding information to find it, then they are going to be that much stronger, and Claude Cowork allows you to do that. The great thing about Claude Cowork is that you can actually now have your connectors in there as well as your projects. So if I were you, I would have a static brief project where you put in the context of the brand and you put in the context of what makes a great static ad. And then from there, you can just connect it in, and then you can start saying, hey, give me 10, give me 50 headlines or ad ideas or whatever it is, right? So you can continue just to prompt it that way. So using and including projects allows you to just get more output without you having to always drop in more context docs every single time. So you can use those projects. So I would set those up. It's very easy to do. If you're just like on your browser and you're on Claude, you can go here and you can just click new project and you can set that up. I can make it for all of Goodo Studios, which is great because then all my strategists can have this same access to all of the same projects, and then we don't have to double up on it. Now, another great thing that you can do is, let's say you don't have those context documents. Let's say you don't have things that you would need to help you get good outputs. Maybe you don't even have good prompts. What I would do is the following, and this is how I've gotten and improved our prompts. Is very simple. You first say like, I want to research Cane Masters, right? And then you're like, I want you to do this, this, and this. And let's say it doesn't give you the output. Keep prompting it until you get to a place where it is a great output. And then say, hey, it took us 20 messages to go back and forth to get this output. Can you just tell me what the prompt should be? Can you make me a prompt so that I can get this output from the very beginning? And then it will give you a really good prompt. So I feel like a lot of times you just need to get the output that you really want, and then you could say, hey, how do I make a prompt to get this again and again and again? The last thing I want to kind of share is we also were able to use this as a way to build out gradings of briefs. So one of the things that is really hard is, how do you get feedback on your briefs? So we took in what is a ton of great briefs, what makes a great brief, and all that. And we have a project that allows us to be able to score the ad brief, and we can actually get that feedback. So right now, I'm going to give a brief, and let's see what it comes up with. Let's see. I'm just going to grab a random one. Okay, I just pulled in this random brief. I don't even know if this is like fully finished, but we're just gonna let it rip. And what's great is that we are able to get feedback on it. And so I think a lot of times people are always looking to, how can we generate more briefs, right, and more ideas? But you can also use it as a way to grade your work, right? So if you have certain things, certain checklists, certain whatever, things that you need to see, you can make these projects so that it can actually work on it, identify where it can go better or how you can improve it. And Cowork just allows you to just do so much, right? So you can it really takes the time to improve this. Chat is good, but the context and the depth that Cowork can have is just so much stronger. So you can see like this output's awesome, right? It's saying like, you know, we need to, I need to add in the Cane Masters thing. Frick. Okay, hold on. All right, so for now, we're just going to do this, even though this is not the actual context doc, but that's fine. We're just gonna use this, and here you go. Okay, now it's gonna cook. Again, that's just because in the prompt it says to add in the context, so, you know, I think that that's good. So we're gonna let this thing roll and work. And you can see that it scored it. Okay, the hook should probably be a little bit better. And if I am a strategist and I'm like, hey, like I need some feedback on my script and I'm waiting for somebody to give feedback, running this through this little project can help them get feedback immediately without having to wait for somebody else or even me to do it. And I built this. So it's like, this is very much like, hey, this is what I would tell you probably, right? If you sent this script to me, and probably even better because it knows everything about all the copywriters, my favorite copywriters and everything like that. And I think this, like the reason why I want to show this is because again, sometimes it's not always about outputs. It can also be great for checking work. And I think people don't talk about this enough, especially if you have something where, you know, you have some really intricate things, like you definitely cannot say X, Y, and Z because you'll get flagged on Meta. If you have those things, building out a checklist and having a brief reviewer just for those things is actually so helpful, because then if you are working with somebody who is more new to your brand, instead of you having to keep doing that over and over and over again, that is already done for you. And Cowork just does a really great job and more in-depth job of really being able to do this. And so yeah, this is like a really cool output. It gives a ton of reasons where and in places and things that we can do to improve this brief, which is, I think, really helpful. Okay, so the very last thing, and something that's so simple, but something that I think is really great, is if you are a creative strategist, you're probably somebody who also has to communicate a lot. And what's great is that you can also connect your Gmail, you can connect your Slack. For us, we use Fireflies, so you can connect Fireflies for your call recordings, and you're able just to do and answer all of your emails and your Slacks and pull in context from other places right here in this terminal. And I think as somebody who is always trying to find ways to give yourself more efficiency, the reason why you want to be efficient is so that you have more space to be creative, right? I think that Claude Cowork is just the best companion for a creative strategist because they do not have to do a ton of admin work as much as they have used to, right? And now they can spend more of their time being creative. And that is only a benefit to everybody, right? Is your creative strategist should be doing creative work. And that means that they need space to open up, to think, and they can use AI to start to prompt and start to grow their ideas and build out their ideas and have somebody who's more of a sparring partner for them, their ideas and their efficiency, but also their efficacy. So like actually how good they become, they are going to be able to get so much better, so much faster because of that. And that is just a net positive all the way. I'm sure that there are other ways to use Claude Cowork. I'd love to hear how you guys are using Claude Cowork, but hopefully this was helpful. This is how we're using it for the most part. There's a lot of other things that I'm sure that we can learn. So drop in the comments what you're using it for, how you're using it. I want to know, my people want to know, my team wants to know, but also share it with the world. Don't be gatekeeping. Let's help each other out. So drop it in the comments. Thanks so much. Appreciate you. Subscribe. Peace.